Okay, so we'll wait for this to get started. Now it's been a severely long time since you've heard anything from me, so we're going to kind of discuss that. Alright, here we go. So, it has been, like I said, a very long time, and kind of should explain what sort of happened. So after I got back from house sitting, the same people as house sitting for decided they wanted to go for another trip, and so they had called me back up there to house sit for them, relatives. So I did that, and I was up there for that amount of time, and once again didn't have access to this system to be able to stream with. So that's kind of where I've been for the past week and a half or so. But it has allowed me to get quite a bit done on the server. So let me just I'll just kind of briefly describe what I've been doing with the server. For the most part, it was the work that I did was mainly on. Well, I did and I didn't have really a lot of time to work on it. I spent a lot of time brushing up on some older games that I haven't played in quite a while, like Final Fantasy 13-2 and Valkyria Chronicles, and some others, as well, in addition to working on stuff for contracts, clients that have contracts with clients. But I did have time to work on this. I did work on a bit of things. Most of the time was spent on this damn thing, and I'm gonna be doing something during this stream to kind of help with this. So what this is the job base HPSP DB from the DB folder of Arathena. Obviously, it's been converted into Excel format, so it can be more easily worked with. And I have been trying to get this stupid thing to, well, not really trying, but I've been trying to figure out how to properly deal with HPSP curves over a number of levels. So every job's going to have 1,000 levels now, like in the original GeoRo server. But unlike in the original one, I'm going to be modifying not only this, but also the job DB2 thing for the additional skill points you get every level. On some job levels, you'll actually get an additional skill point to or attribute point, I should say, to one of your various attributes, one of your 6 attributes. And that's what this table controls. We'll be modifying that as well. I did manage to get all the skill tree stuff done and fixed for the most part. There's still some problems dealing with skill levels that are too high for a particular class. I think it's because maybe that class hasn't been set up correctly in the has not yet been set up in the job EXP table, and so it detects that the level of the skill, which would be 10 or whatever, is higher than the maximum job level of the class, which is 0 for those because I haven't put them into the job DB job EXP table yet. But all the custom classes now have the dual classes have their the skills reassigned to them in the skill DB. There are actually quite a few problems. I don't know how I missed them or if I just how it actually happened. But there was at least 20 or 30 skills that had some sort of invalid value somewhere. Probably from a find replace all or something that went horribly wrong somewhere along the line. And they had some weird values in there. And in addition to that, some values actually weren't accurate anymore because the skill ID for the skills they were referring to had changed. That didn't happen quite too much, but it did happen in some cases, and so I had to go back and fix those. But yeah, so most of the skills, though, went in just fine. Of the literal, I don't know, like hundreds of skills I've added in. Well, let's see. Where's the first custom class? I need to go well, maybe not, we got that stuff there. Ignore the IDs. The IDs are wrong now. Or, well, maybe, yeah, they are. For the custom classes. So, okay, these are the custom class skills. Okay, I thought I had them all in here, but it's just custom. So, yeah. I have, minus a few blank cells for whatever reason, I have about 10,116 skills for that are not originally in the skill tree for all the custom classes. Um, we'll reduce that down to maybe 10,025, just because of assuming there's going to be maybe 4 cells per. Well, it's 4 per. So no, it might be closer to like 500 or 600 lines that aren't really used. So probably closer back to 9,500 something. Still, a friggin' ton of them. And that was a real nightmare to try and figure out how to do until I realized I could just throw it into Excel like this and do it this way. I was trying to do it in TextPad before, and it was just like 10,000 lines of code to change, or lines of whatever to change. I don't think so. So, but what this does is it, again, tells you what the HP, the base HP and SP before anything is added onto it from either the stats or the, I keep saying stats, the skills are stats, it's attributes. The attributes or the server configuration settings are applied. So, what I want to do is I want to make the game a little bit harder without overly having to mess around with the server settings. So I want to kind of tighten up the HP and SP without having to drop it too much. That way, the mob HP and SP stuff doesn't get modified, and I can kind of mess around and fiddle with the difficulty of the game through just working on this stuff. But there presents a problem, which is how do you determine when you're going to, so for example, ramping. So when are you going to determine when you're going to do some sort of like addition to it based on some values? How do you determine when you're going to increase the per cell increase in the value, or decrease it in both cases? And how do you determine whether or not you want to do them at all? And it's just something that's way better way better situated to be done in some sort of application. So we're going to be doing what one of my routine, let's make an app that doesn't exist yet to do something that's extremely tedious to do, and I'm too lazy to do it, to make it do it for me. So that's what this video is basically going to be about. It's going to be about making it's going to be just command line based. I'm probably going to be the one that's going to use it. Tool to do this for me so that I don't have to go through and individually, what I was doing was I'd take some, like for this one, for example, for the novice SP, I started out with 1, I dragged out that 1 over to 3 cells, increased this to 2, did the same thing there, yada yada yada. These ones I would set up an increment, like in this case it was 3, drag it out to a particular point. In this case I think it was level 99. So stop at 98, so we get up to 47, then say, okay, we want to add some random amount of some random value plus some variable value to make it so that it changes with the job. And then add that on, then add the increase from this back on, and sometimes the increase changes, so you have to change the increase to the next one. It takes forever to do it by hand. I only got through like the first 4 of these. So I only got through novice, baby novice, novice high, super novice, all those, and swordman, baby swordman. Over like a week and a half or something of working on this stuff. It's crazy, insane tedious. Of course, that includes testing it in the server as well. So I want to make something that will fix this. The other thing I was doing though was actually I set up TeamViewer because I didn't want to take stuff down there with me and then have to wait to come back up here to test it. So I set up TeamViewer on the server computer, on this computer, and on my laptop. I was able to remote into this computer while I was down there, and when I did that, I realized I could work on the Athena database editor tool. And so what I did with that is I actually went in and improved a couple things and fixed a few things that I found that were wrong. So for one example, when I really haven't fixed it yet, but I'm getting there. But when I did fix that. So in the generated files, it kept on adding extra lines to the insert statements on the SQL, I think. Or I might be thinking of something else. And there was something weird with how it was outputting new lines, and I figured out why that was, because I was adding a new line every time that it was going through the column list or something, and it shouldn't have been. So I got that fixed, and I fixed a few other things relating to crap. I should have wrote all this down because now it's kind of hard to remember. Like really just kind of annoying stuff that I added a scroll bar to the mob DB editor so that if the window shrinks below, if the resolution of the screen is smaller than the size it needs to be to show the entire window at the same time, it now has a scroll bar that you can scroll through things with. I'll probably do that for vertical as well, and also add that to the item database. I also added in a new setting and a whole new kind of feature, if you will, which I'll talk about really quick. So I added in this new source file extension option, which gives you the option of choosing .sql, txt, or CSV. So this is kind of just another extension of saying, whatever type of file you have, like maybe you're not using SQL files, maybe it's TXT files because you're on the flat file database. Or maybe you have something that you made yourself that's a CSV file or something. You can use those in here as well. And what this also allows us to do then is to not only make it so that you can read in more different types of files, but also it helps to work the new feature that I've added in, which is to take things that you've updated and create rows for your source files. So say you modify a monster and save it and do the generate output files. Now you get your normal generated files in the gen files folder that you assigned for the generated files directory. You'll get those, but you also get a new gend file in your source files directory that will have the updated row in the format that you need it in. So, like for example, if you're using SQL based on what this setting is, eventually it doesn't do it right now, but eventually what will happen is, depending on what your data source setting is, if it's flat file, it'll generate it with the flat file formatting. So you can just plug it back into your source file. Or if it's SQL, it'll do the SQL type formatting and plug it right back in there as well. And you can just copy it and paste it over what's there already. I decided I wanted to do this because when I was working on updating the human mobs, because the item IDs they have are incorrect now because we've changed all the IDs around from where they were in the previous version of the server. So they weren't dropping like the soul fragments or the vials of blood. So I had to go in and add those back in. But when I was doing that, somehow or another, there was some sort of weird crash that I fixed. I can't even remember what it is now. Just something that I found by fiddling around with things that caused a crash of the application because of an invalid null value for a file string or something. And I lost all the stuff that I had been working on at that point. It was during the file generation output. So I was thinking, okay, well, I have the part of the updates to the mobs, but then I couldn't go back in and then just continue modifying them because the half that was there was fine, the other half that wasn't there wasn't, and so I'd have to modify everything again. It would take the 3.5 hours I think I worked on it at that point to recreate it. So instead, I decided, okay, I'm gonna spend another 2.5 hours doing something completely different to add in this new functionality, so I don't have to redo this stuff again if it crashes, even though I have to still redo it. So it was kind of a bird-brain thing, but at the same time, I got this new functionality, and so it works. There was a error at the beginning because it didn't connect in the right setting for for this, so I wasn't getting the right values in, but fixed that and it was working. I also fixed a problem with this. So before, if you had selected, I think it was either of these two, and then unselected them, the lists here would continue to have the values for those two checkboxes in them, and they wouldn't be removed. And that's because I had commented out some code that not sure why I did, but that differentiated them. Differentiated them. God, can't talk today. Differentiated them from each other. Let's see, where's the code at? That's not what we want. That's something else. That's the partial. Well, I want to see actual. Well, maybe not. Maybe. Oh yeah, that was it. That was the partial. So, I had commented out these checks here to see what the sender was equal to, and because I did that, it was adding. And if one of these was so it was doing that, and if this was checked, it was adding in these things again, and then removing them if it wasn't checked. So the problem is that if you had it checked and then you change the value of the other one from checked to unchecked multiple times, it would add these in every time because this would still be checked. So I did originally have the sender equals in there. I commented them out for some reason, probably because of I thought maybe there was some issue they were causing or whatever, and never enabled them. That was a simple fix. I also made it so that there's some type, or not type, but validity checking in the settings. Some settings now will require you to put something into them. So, like for example, if you don't, or is one of these, so source file selected index. If you don't select the source file extension type, it'll yell at you that you haven't selected it yet when you click on the OK button and say that you can't continue until you select something. Same thing for the file lists for the primary and secondary, as well as the directories for the source files and the gen file directories. I thought about adding it to other things, but I think the rest of the stuff is pretty much optional. You have to have this stuff in here, though, for the app to work at all. So, I guess on this stuff there could be some things too. Like you have to have the custom item location and custom mob location stuff selected, as well as the data source. So I might add that into there as well. So I have extended a bit. I have fixed a few things. It works better now. I did find one interesting bug that was kind of weird because the use case that would have shown it didn't come up until recently, which is that when you are, what the issue was is that I was setting the HP of the mobs when you're updating them to the level or the ID of the mob instead of the actual HP value that was pulled in from the source file. So like if you used pouring in there, you modified the HP to something, the resulting generated file output would be saying that the pouring's HP would be like 1001 or whatever the value for the ID is for pouring. So I fixed that. And then also added in that generation thing, which is pretty interesting. I might show that to you later. For now, though, what we're going to do is we're going to get to the new thing we're going to be working on. Going to open up a new window. While I'm doing that, Reciteer. Maybe on Monday, we'll have to see. I might do a stream for that on Monday. So we're going to do a new solution here, a new project. Let's do it in C++ just because done a lot of C# recently and working on want to do some C++. We'll do an empty project, call it, what do we call it? So I can also use this in terms of the, actually I can use it in a couple ways. I can use it in terms of the, well, maybe not the db2 file because that's more specifically every so often you put a value in, so that might be easier to do. But in the context of the exp files, that would be something that this could be used for too. So what do we call it? I'll just call it value ramping tool or something. We'll not create a Git repository for it. It's not going on Git. Okay. So, let's see. How are we going to structure this? Do we want to put it all into one source file? Or are we going to have like a class that would have values in it? I think because what's going to happen is we're going to have, it's going to be done on maybe a class by class basis, because there's going to be like certain things you'll need to put in manually, like values and things. I think it'd probably be better just to do it as just all in a one source file, not break it into a class or something. It's not going to be that complex. So we'll go ahead and create a new source file. Call it. I really need to start calling, so I'm just going to say value ramping tool. Maybe not. Let's see if it'll take it with the spaces or not. Oh, it did. I didn't think you could do spaces. Okay, cool. Awesome. We'll need to include IO string. So we're needing that. Come on in. I'll need to include file. Let's see. I think file IO is in. So let me see real quick. Crap. File input output for C++. I'm like, I'm gonna go file writer, file reader. If I can spell file right. Yeah, no, it's not file reader or writer. It's something else for C++. What is it? I haven't used file output for C++ in a while. I could go check the. Well, no, we're using database. Well, there's a log though. I suppose I could go check that. Do I have it open? I don't have it open, but we can open it all the same. Or it's not in the recently opened list. Logging. Let's see, is there a logging in here? Should be. Logging. Alright, what are you called? Oh, that's right. OFstream. Fstream and upstream. Upstream, whatever you want to call it. That's right. File input, output file stream, input file stream. And yeah, they're part of IO stream, so good. Alright, don't need to worry about that. Get out of there. So this will be string. Don't think we'll need a vector. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe we will need a vector. Actually, probably will need one. So vector. What else do we need? Blah 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 blah. I think that's all we'll need for right now. Using statements. Let's see. Using std string, not string val, just string. Using come on. Trying to type with a microphone in front of my face is kind of annoying. Vector. Using std send, std out, count. L. What else am I using? Might need toString. What else might we need? Oh, I already closed it. Great. Why did I close it for? Let's see. Stream if well, 5 path exists. Okay, we don't have to do any. I think that's all we need really. All right. So, if we need anything else, we'll put it up there. I think that's all the using declarations we need, though. So, variables. So we're going to store a couple things. First of all, we'll need an int for user inputs. We'll need, let's see, a couple ints. So, max level. We'll need so that's only the starting value, so maybe a min val or start val, I guess we'll call it. What else do we need? So I want to be able to specify the job ID, I guess, for some calculations. Int val increment rate. Let's actually make two of these. Well, yeah, we'll need to make two different ones. Int vector of int, actually. So HP vals vector of int SP vals. Should probably go ahead and initialize them right now. Okay, what else do we need? So, we need to set some other values. So int small val increase, or small val increment, I guess. Med val increment. And large. All these should equal 0. So, how about applying these increments? Needs to be done. I don't want it to be done the same way every time because then it kind of gets formulaic. I want it to be done randomly. If we're going to do random, then we need to bring in the random functionality that I've used and everything that I made for this game. Is it open? Yes, it is. Okay, so I guess we'll need a header for this, I guess. Doesn't this have a? No, I guess it's all just defined in the header here. Very well. It's not really a class as much as it is a like a static file, I guess, technically. By ramping tools, so technically that's right. It shouldn't really be a header file. It should be a, what is it? What do I have it set? Actually, well, it has some header definition stuff in it. If in def. I think you could use that anywhere. Well, let's see if you can use it anywhere. Add new file. Well, I guess you can. Maybe. We'll see. So this should compile if we build it, because there's no, at least for this part. It may fail in the random file. Oh, it worked. Interesting. Alright, so let's include yeah. It should be a header file. I was wondering. Rename to .h. I knew there's a reason why it was never a... I don't know, I've still got some linker problems. Already defined random objects. Oh. Damn, okay, well, I want to see it. Linker, why are you being such a pain? It's already defined in a random object, blah, blah, blah. Include, oh. That's interesting. Oh, no, that's not it. That's the random, whatchamacallit, stuff for the int distribution. Float, Alright, so if this isn't going to compile, what did I do with the new one? The economic simulation. So maybe I changed it for that. So actually it's in util now, isn't it? So include random and util. Okay, so I kind of turned it into a namespace for util, but it's interesting. Where are they? They're under somewhere. Here they are. Here, my get rands. So what's the actual code for those? I think it's just the same thing. Yeah, we have to define it inside of a class structure. Damn. All right. Not a problem. Not a problem. So random. CPP. Of course, this then needs to come over to random. Then we need to include .h. Okay. Okay, there we go. IntelliSense is just crapping the bed as usual. At least I think so. It's not erroring out, which it should be if it can't detect that these are here. So I think it's fine. Let me see. Where is... There used to be a way to force IntelliSense to update. Right, they removed it. I remember now. For whatever stupid reason, they decided to remove it. I think it was after 2010 or 2012 they removed that option. I meant to say you had to go change some frigging file in the folder to make it do it, so whatever. I will ignore that for now. So we've got these values now. We've got our random in here. So we'll need to have a int for min and max random int to store it for use in the code later on. So int, let's call it minrand, something epically named, and int maxrand. Okay. So let's also do an int multi. And there should be a 0 there, and there's not. And small val j multi. Okay, so these are going to store a value that will be used in calculations with the job ID to determine the total value of these here. So like you were seeing on the Excel file, where I had like on, I think on 99, where I had that value plus job ID divided by 2. So the 2 will be this multiplier. Value here. So the min rand and max rand will determine randomly at what level between a range of levels. So you'll say, like, say 1 and 4. So at any point in time between 1 and 4, it'll do that. It'll draw it up and say, okay, at let's say 3. So in the next, after the next 3 levels, there will be some event will happen. There'll be a different random that'll determine whether it's going to be a large value increase, a value increment rate increase or decrease, or if it's going to be both. And when that'll happen will be depending on this. So we'll say, let's give this something a little more specific. Level range random. And we'll do int. So we'll need to store. So next level event, which will basically be the output of whatever the random spits out from these. Int level event type. Alright, I think we got everything we need to start with. So first thing we need to do is we need to get all this input here. I also want to grab something else from, well, nah, I'm just going to trust myself not to enter an invalid value, so I'm not going to do any value checking from the input. So, first things first, count. Please enter max level. actually, we don't even need this then if we're going to do that way. That'd be if we're going to do type checking on the input. So max level. Okay, kept. Please enter starting. There should be two start values. I was right. There should be an HP and SP start value. Because it's going to be doing these at the same time, not one at a time. Start HP val and start SP val. Starting HP val. If you haven't done so, I'd very much recommend you go watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I recently refound it after talking to a relative about it, and funny as hell. I had forgotten completely about it. I had watched it a while back. I don't know, 2013 or 2014, I think I found it then. Watched a bit of it and then completely forgot about it. It's just funny as hell. Especially Ghost Nappa. Let's see, when to do count, please enter starting SP value. Okay, then the job ID. Don't know why I capitalized enter for. Change things up, I guess. Job ID value. I just realized it's going to be so much easier if I just copy this down and change just the stuff we need to. This one's going to be job ID. So value increment rate. So that'd be the starting, enter starting, and that's going to be crap. Right, let's just call it HP increment rate and SP increment rate. Better way to describe them. Starting HP increment rate. And then the same for SP. Next, we need to get the small val increase base value. And, well, the same, all that for all the base value of those. So please enter base start. Please enter small increase value, small value increase base value. Small value increase. Please enter small value increase base value. Almost doesn't make sense. Please enter space small increase value. So small value increase. Do that for all the other two. So medium. Or that should be large, not. What did I call it? Large val increase. Oh, there's a space there. That's why. Next, we need the level multiplier. So actually, we just take all these and change a few things in them per one of them. Please enter small. So this is a large value job multiplier. So please enter small increase job multiplier value. So just need to add that to every one of these. Okay. So SM value multi med value val J multi and LRG val J multi. Okay. Next, what do we need to do? We need the min and max level range rand. So what this allows you to do is say how often you want to have level events happen. So how often you want to have an increase in the a potential increase in like the incremental value or decrease in it happen, or how often you want to have a potentially have a large or small or medium value increase. So the smaller you put this, the more I guess randomized the leveling pattern should be, but it should also mean that it's larger because you can have more chances for like a medium, small, or large value increase. So the min and max for that. Please enter the min level okay, and then change that to max instead of min. Okay. And then, let's see, next level event type. So these two are going to be used for internal stuff. We're not going to set them. I think that's all the stuff we have to set. I think that's all the input we need. And then from here we can actually do the processing on what we need to do. So first of all, we're going to be iterating over the max level. So we'll need to do a for, or, well, I guess we could do a while loop. But in this case, I'd rather do a for loop because it has the built-in decrement or increment. In this case, we'll do a decrement. So for, we won't specify a starter value because we're using max level. Well, let's see. Actually, no, we do need that. So for int I1 equals 0, or equals max level, while I1 is greater than 0, I1 minus minus. Now it should go the other way because that way we don't have to do the reverse setting for the well, no, that's fine. We don't have to output anything other than the values. We don't need to say like what the level is. So this will work just fine. So now for each time we go through this, We'll need to first check if the next level event is 0. If it is, then we want to run, so if this equals 0, then we want to run the random code to generate out a value for it. So equals crap, since it's a class now, we're going to have to create a class reference. Equals rand dot get I rand, and then we'll say the min level range rand and max level range rand. Or get I range. Into low and high. See, function is inaccessible. Oh, right. Derp. There we go. So we'll set it. We won't do an else if, because if it is 0, we want to set it and then do this next code. So what'll happen is that we'll take this value and we'll decrease it every time we go through a loop. So we'll add in next level event minus minus. And when it reaches 0, then we'll know at that point that's when, or when it reaches -1. And we'll set it to -1. When it reaches 0, we'll know that that's when we're supposed to generate an event. So if next level event equals 0, then we'll do something else. This one will have an else on, because then if it's not 0, we want to do this other thing. So if it's -1, it gets caught here. If it's not -1, but 0 gets caught here. If it's not 0 or -1, it'll get caught here. So never should a -1 be ending up down here. Right, okay, that should be fine. So now what we want to do on this one, we're going to create a function. Let's go ahead and define it out here. So it will not return anything. So void get level event type, and we won't pass anything through. And then we'll also no, I think that's all we need to do. So we'll do processing in the actual if statement. So we're going to have 3 types of events. No, 5 types. Because the increase or decrease of the increment value, well, 5 per each of them. So 5 for HP, 5 for SP. Because the increase can be either increased or decreased. So there's 2 for that. So the events that we have are, so events, actually we'll do a comment block. So events are that increment val is increased, increment val is decreased, small value increase, med value increase, or a large value increase. So that's for both SP, HP and SP. So what we need to do also then is, where's the type at? Level event type, level HP event type, SP event type. So it'll be 0 to 4, and depending on the value, that's what will happen. So now we need to create some code to actually set this up. So we're going to need another random here. Damn, I guess we'll have to pass through the random then. So we can use it here instead of having to redefine it elsewhere. So random, rand. So int EV type rand equals rand dot get I range. Let's see. So there's 5. So we could do this in as a 1 to 50, I guess. Because we want to have certain things be more likely than others. Like, for example, we want to say that the small value increase is going to be much more likely to happen than a medium or a large value increase. So instead of doing just a 1 to 4 or 0 to 4 on the range to just pass it back, we're actually going to do a if then else statement to be able to set these up a little bit more particularly. But I think maybe we'll leave that for later. It's about 6 o'clock now, so I'm going to take a break. Maybe I'll come back in an hour and a half or so, and we will continue and finish up this first version of this, and then see if it works at all. This is the kind of stuff I do all the time. I do something and I run into a problem where it's like, it's going to take forever, and it's like impossible to do in terms of like just all this stuff we have to change. So I'm just going to write something to do it for me. This is like a look into my everyday life of what I just do in between streaming and working on stuff for games and whatnot. I just write tools to do random crap that I don't want to do myself. So around probably 7 to 8:30, I'll start the stream up again, and we will see where this takes us. But thanks for watching so far, and I will see you then. Now I just need to stop the stream.